Let's now also use the selected date. And we already have the submit data method, which is triggered when we try to add the transaction. There, right now, we're validating that we have a title and an amount. And if either of the two is missing, we return, which means we don't submit the data. Now I want to add a third condition, which when it is false will also lead to this not being submitted. And that is, of course, that selected date is equal to null, so it's not set. If that is not set, then I also want to quit. So if either of these three conditions is met, if we have no title, if the amount is below 0 or equal to 0, or if we have no selected date, then we will return. And as an addition, to avoid errors, if you don't even have an amount entered, so if you hit add transaction here with nothing entered, where you get an error right now, you can also add an initial check here and check if underscore amount controller text is empty. In that case, this here would always fail. Then you can also return. Now you can still fail if you enter some text that is not parsable into the amount controller, but that's a case we can ignore for now. At least we now avoid errors because we try to submit an empty form. But back to submitting our date. In the end, the goal has to be that we pass our selected date here, the datetime object, to add tx, so to our add transaction function. The add transaction function in the end is of course defined in main Dart. There we have add new transaction, and at the moment we're not expecting a date here. Of course we can change this. We can accept a third argument, which is of type datetime, which is the chosen date. And the chosen date should now be used here instead of datetime now as a date for the transaction. And that should already be all we need to do. This should allow us to pick a date and use it in the created transaction. So if I now add a title here, new shoes, and a value of, let's say, 69.99, then at the moment I also can't get to my date picker without closing the keyboard, so we'll have to take care about this soon. For now, let's close the keyboard and now choose a date, let's say yesterday. If I now add the transaction, that's looking good. It was added to yesterday, not today. And now let's try another transaction, groceries, for 15.86, let's say. Close that, choose a date, and let's say that was on Sunday. Then indeed that's added here on Sunday, and you see it only makes up a fraction of our total spendings. Now, the fact that we can't really get to our date picker here without manually closing the keyboard is something we should also take care of course. For the moment, it's however something we can live with, and later we'll learn about a technique or about a certain feature of Flutter that helps us with fixing this problem here as well.